Is Andy Levy. I am a trial lawyer from Baltimore, Maryland, and I also teach at Maryland has two law schools, the University of Maryland and the University of Baltimore, and I teach at various times at both of them.
And my name is Anthony Miller. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. I am an alumni of the program, so I competed in my senior year of high school as well. And I've worked as a coordinator for the last 10 years, helping to organize the Nevada state competition and district competitions and coaching teachers and students while preparing for competition. And this is my first year judging at the national level. So I'm really excited to be here and hear everything you have for us today.
And aloha, I am Susan Arnett. I am from Hawaii. I'm a criminal defense lawyer and just retired from the public defender's office, and also teach at the William S. Richardson School of Law at the University of Hawaii. And just for the record, I have not coached the Hawaii team. So good luck today.
And so tell us who you are, and please introduce your teacher.
Aloha, my name is Liza Kabote. I am a junior at McKinley High School, and we are here with our teacher, Sean Kamita.
Hi, my name is Catherine Wabel, and I'm a junior at McKinley High School as well.
Hi, my name is Songo Amaro. I am a junior at McKinley High School.
Okay, well, congratulations on being here. We're going to, so it's no mystery what the topic or the question is, but I'm going to read it anyway, so we're all literally on the same page. Members of Congress are not only legislators, but they are also inquisitorial and should meet frequently to inspect the conduct of the public officers. That is a quote attributed to George Mason. How effectively do you believe Congress has used its investigative power? Explain the differences, if any, between Congress's power to investigate and the power of oversight. Which power, in your opinion, is more significant? How effectively do you believe Congress has used its oversight powers? I'm going to begin anytime you're ready.
We believe that the Congress effectively uses power of investigation because with the power of investigation, there have been many abuses uncovered in the government and reform within the legislature. The power of investigation is usually delegated to the committees, but they conducted investigation to gather information on the need for future legislation, to test the effectiveness of law already passed, and on rare occasions lay the groundwork for impeachment proceedings. While the function of oversight power is to review, monitor, and supervise federal agencies, programs, activities, and policy implementation. In a way, check on executive power.
Congress's power to investigate is very broad. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. Congressional power of oversight is important because it acts as a check on the executive branch. Congressional investigations have greatly affected American history, often drawing intense public scrutiny and/or resulting in major legislation. There are three broad limits on congressional investigations. The first limit is the constitutional limit, which permits Congress from investigating as long as it is within the principles of the Constitution. The second limit is the statutory limits imposed on investigations. The Supreme Court has made it clear that a congressional investigation must have a legislative purpose. The third limit is Congress's own rules and procedures. In conclusion, Congress's power of oversight and investigation both have a big role in how our government runs, but Congress's power of investigation is more important. We believe this because the investigations have led to things like legislature reform, and they have uncovered many things such as abuse of power and appeased the nation by upholding officials.
There have been several instances in the past when Congress employed its powers of oversight effectively. In June 1972, there was a break-in to the National Democratic Committee headquarters, which led to an investigation that revealed the multiple abuses of power by the Nixon administration. This is known as the Watergate Scandal. Congress used its powers of oversight to uncover the Watergate break-in by burglars attempting to rig the re-election, illegal espionage, and deliberate obstruction of justice. The House Judiciary voted to impeach Nixon, but he resigned and was pardoned by President Ford. Nixon's abuse of presidential power had a long-lived effect on American politics. The Watergate scandal further added to the adversity in the national climate. New legislation has since been created, which include the Freedom of Information Act of 1974 and the Federal Advisory Committee Act of 1972. This demonstrates that Congress had used its powers of oversight effectively to supervise executive activities and implement policies.
Power of investigation and oversight are one of the many powers that were given to the Congress. These two powers are different from each other, but both powers share a common goal, which is to make sure the executive branch is in control. Congress' power of oversight often leads to investigation. As Congress supervises the executive branch, they can ensure that they execute what they were meant to do, and should something go wrong, they intervene. Both powers have been used in the past, and the events or scandals that were handled by both powers has shaped the way our government governs our country, as well as our political world as it is today. And this concludes our presentation.
Well, thank you very much for that very interesting opening statement. Let me begin by asking you, you gave an example of several examples of how the investigative function of Congress has led to good results, has been useful and productive. Can you give me any examples of cases where you think the Congress's investigation has not worked out so well, and has, if ever, maybe even been an abuse of it? Liza, oh, there, yeah, we couldn't hear you at first. Maybe begin again.
When looking at congressional investigations from a point of view where it isn't necessarily as helpful, I think one example we can look to in the recent events were the investigations of Donald Trump and the dealings with the Ukrainian government, specifically for the reason that there was an impeachment proceeding, and it wasn't dealt with he wasn't held accountable to it as much as I believe he should have been. And it really goes on to show that he abused his power later on with another impeachment proceeding that happened, and he was impeached twice.
And if there are other examples from the other people on the panels, please speak up. Do you think that was a failure of Congress, or do you think that was an abuse by President Trump?
Considering it might be a combination of both. Because for one, it takes a president to abuse power in order for a congressional hearing to occur, but the lack of accountability placed on him for him to be impeached twice is really telling of the whole situation.
Thank you.
As the world has become increasingly complicated and just broad, financial systems, economic systems have become incredibly complex, especially the stock market and the different types of securities and options and things that exist these days, as well as technology getting more and more complicated. How does Congress stay informed on the issues that they're supposed to legislate on? You know, they try to use this investigatory power. Do you think that it's been effective in helping them to stay informed and up to date with the times and the complexity of the world? Are there better ways they could employ their investigative powers in order to be better informed?
I think that as we know, like investigation power is usually delegated to the committees. So like the Congress could like create a committee where it could be involved in the social world, and like the committees can like send message back to the Congress and like keep the Congress up to date and stuff like that.
To add on to what Catherine has said, I do believe that Congress and employing the power of investigation can help them be more well informed on the issues that and disparities that surround our nation today, in a way where like uncovering all of the disparities that go on in the world kind of help them realize that, oh, this is an issue and this is something that we need to deal with, or like they probably wouldn't have even known that those were, or that was an issue. And in order, or the ability to investigate is a tool that can be used to basically like.
Great. Yeah, I agree that the investigative power can absolutely be used to help inform them. I want to further ask, do you think that it has been used effectively? You know, specifically, let's talk about Congress's investigation into technology companies recently. You know, the public hearings they've had where they've summoned CEOs of tech companies in. It's looked like the Congress members themselves have a really hard time even understanding how these companies work, how the technology works, how data is transmitted through the internet. How can they more effectively become informed on those issues?
I think that would require the collaboration of other departments in the executive branch. I think Congress has done an effective job, or they have done an effective job, but there's still some work that could have been done. For example, I would use the example of Donald Trump and the incitement of violence on like Twitter. And like Congress has done investigations on how the things that the president has said can heavily impact like the public. And I think that they've done a pretty okay job like looking into that.
You mentioned the broad limits that sort of govern the use of the investigatory powers, constitutional, statutory, their own rules and procedures, and that there needs to be a link to legislation when they're doing this. And I'm wondering about some investigations in the past where I'm not sure there was a link, or maybe it was tenuous, such as, you know, they looked at fraud on game shows back in the 50s. In the 60s, they had the tobacco companies come in to talk about how dangerous or not cigarettes were. I think it was the 70s when they had baseball players come in and talk about steroid use. Are those examples of appropriate use of Congress's investigatory powers, in your opinion?
Like, for example, I do believe that what you have said is an appropriate use of investigation, because it is or it does concern the public and the national interest. If it's something that would pose as a later problem, an investigation to kind of look into it and establish whether or not the conditions are safe for the public would be okay.
I agree with my teammate that investigations in those cases are important, because they do affect the public and the well-being of everyone.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Are we out of time? Great. Good.
Bless you. You doing okay over there, Eliza?
Yeah, I've been coughing these past few weeks, and I just had a cough attack. Thank you.
I understand. I've been there. I've been on camera and had that happen plenty of times. It's not fun. Okay, well, great. Andrew, you want to start with your comments?
Yeah. So you guys seem to have a very good foundation of knowledge, and I'll just tell you anecdotally. I mean, it's so interesting to hear you talk about Watergate and the break-in on the Democratic headquarters. Because I have specific memories. So I would have been, so this was June of 72. I would have had just turned 16 because my birthday is the end of May. And I can specifically remember either the day that it was, made the paper, or the next day, having an argument with my father in which he was sort of poo-pooing it as that it would, the idea that this was sort of something that the Republicans were connected to actually break into the Democratic headquarters. He found such an absurd notion that he just sort of couldn't believe that this was anything but like some, crazy group who, and I can remember saying, oh no, I'll bet this is the Republicans, and he was telling me I was crazy. And then of course, it played out over the next 2 years. I mean, it was just, so now it's a historic, event, which gives you an idea of, how old I am. But it's fantastic. Seriously, it's fantastic to get your generation's perspective on this. It sort of shaped my generation's view of politics. It led to the, the election of Jimmy Carter in 1976, and it's still just a pretty, I mean, I can remember when Alexander Butterfield testified that there was a recording system in the White House. No one had known that before then. I mean, it was just like, sort of like some of the things we've seen in the last few years. You couldn't make it up. And if you'd put it in a novel, they would have said it was too ridiculous to, to be realistic. So I thought you guys did a very good job. You're at something of a disadvantage because for the most part, as juniors, you're competing against seniors, and there's nothing you can do about, there's just nothing you can do about that, but they have a little bit of a leg up. I would encourage you to be even more confident in terms of your presentation. You absolutely had substance. Your views were well thought out. They were well ordered and responsive. It's a pretty remarkable job, particularly given that that you're juniors and you still have a year of high school to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with everything Andrew said. I think it's incredibly inspiring that you guys are a team of juniors, and to see that how prepared and how knowledgeable and just how interested in this stuff you are is really awesome. Most high school students don't even take a government class until their senior year. So to be engaged in this as juniors is really, really awesome and very inspiring. I mimic everything Andrew said that was positive. I liked the conversation about I like that you cited Congress has their own rules and procedures and regulations that kind of do effectively place some sort of limits on the investigative powers, and not many teams have cited that today. So I really like that. I think that a lot of your examples were wonderful. I want to give you guys some constructive feedback that's not only for We the People, but just going forward throughout your academic and professional careers. I think that you should really carefully consider your audience when you're writing. I agree with Andrew that Watergate is a wonderful example, and it was a perfect example to cite. But though you spent a significant period of that 4 minutes explaining to us the story of and the history of Watergate, and we all know the story of Watergate, right? Everyone in this room already knows that story. So that time, it was important to cite the incident, but to explain it to us, really all you need to do is explain to us insofar as it connects to the points you're making, right? Why Watergate is an important example. And when I say, consider your audience, consider your intention in the information you're delivering, consider the format. So this was a prepared 4-minute speech, but it read very much like a essay you would write for a high school class that was a informative research paper. And in this case, you are instead giving this as a speech, and it's meant to be more argumentative, to be influenced a lot more by your own opinion, and then using all of these pieces of evidence to support that opinion. So it's far less important that you thoroughly explain all of the research about each item as it is that you just use them to back up your opinion. And if we need clarifying, if we don't know about one of your examples, we can ask about it in follow-up, right? Or in fact, we've already today gone back and researched and Googled some of the things that students have talked about that we didn't know after the fact. So like I said, I think you guys did wonderfully, but in everything you write and in every presentation you give for the rest of your lives, it's very important. You'll be so much more successful if you consider A, the intent, and B, the audience. Knowing that we likely already know a lot about Watergate means that you don't need to spend that time there, right? Overall, wonderful, wonderful job.
I'm very proud of you. If we see each other on the street in Honolulu, please come up and say hi. I liked your initial presentation. You are the first group who set out, in the way that you did it, that there are 3 broad limits, and characterized what they were. I appreciated that you answered the questions that were put to you if you were asked which is more important. And on one of them you said you thought it was a combination. You gave specific examples when asked. That was effective. I'm trying to think, sometimes it can be effective to think of a local example of, for example, an investigatory hearing. And the only one that's coming to me at the moment, which predates the birth of all of you, is the heptachlor crisis, which was back in, I think, the 70s, when dairy cows were being fed pineapple leaves that had been treated with heptachlor when they were in the pineapple fields. And heptachlor started showing up in the blood of children because they were drinking the milk from the dairy cows. So they did have hearings into how that all came about and happened. So that might be a useful tool to find local examples where, they're trying to gather information, as you said, to inform legislation. But I really liked what you did. Andy is a youngster because I was in college when Watergate happened. But it's a very good example, effective in the way that you used it. So good job. Thank you very much. And I know how early you had to get up this morning.
I just wanted to say thank you to all for your constructive feedback. It was really helpful, and I'm so glad to be able to present in front of you at Nationals.